My dad had one rule: never go in the basement. For years, I thought he was just overprotective. But the day I finally unlocked that door, I found something that changed everything I thought I knew about him and our entire family. What I saw down there, it wasn't just a secret, it was a crime. I used to think we were just a poor, unlucky family. The kind of family that scrapes by on expired cereal and hand-me-downs from strangers. But now I realize our story goes a lot deeper than bad luck or low pay. There was a reason behind every struggle we faced. And it started with the basement. Growing up, I never questioned it much. We lived in a tired old house at the edge of town. Shingles missing, paint peeling, and that one step on the porch that always creaked no matter how slow you stepped. But my dad always had one rule. One ironclad, no exceptions rule. Never go in the basement. Even when I dropped my basketball down the stairs, he was the one who fetched it. If a fuse blew or the heat cut out in winter, he went down alone. Door locked behind him. Sometimes I'd hear noises, clanking or low thuds, but if I asked, he'd brush it off. Old pipes, he'd mutter. This place is falling apart. My mom left when I was 6. I didn't know why back then. Just remember waking up one morning, her side of the closet empty, and the house feeling colder somehow. Dad said she couldn't handle the stress of being poor. I believed him for years. We lived off peanut butter sandwiches and instant noodles. Dad worked odd jobs, plumbing, roofing, hauling junk. He was always tired, always covered in grime, and always snapping at me for leaving lights on or wasting food. Still, I thought he was doing his best. I really did. Things started to change the year I turned 16. That was when I noticed the money coming in didn't match his work hours. He was out most nights, gone for long stretches, but we started having more groceries. I got a new pair of shoes, not used ones. Even our power stayed on more regularly. Got a better job, he said. Helping a buddy with some side work. Pays better. I didn't question it. We needed the help. But that same year, I started hearing more noise from the basement. More often. Not just mechanical sounds either. Thumps. Whispers. Once, I could have sworn I heard crying. I asked him about it once, just once. He didn't yell. He didn't even raise his voice. He just stared at me with this strange look, like he was trying to figure something out. Then he said, "If you ever go down there, I don't care how old you are, you'll regret it." That scared me more than if he'd shouted. Then came the night everything changed. It was a Sunday. I remember because we were watching old reruns on our tiny living room TV, and he suddenly stood up and grabbed his coat. "Back in an hour," he said. He left his phone on the table. That was rare. My dad clung to that phone like it was glued to his palm. Something about that moment didn't sit right with me. Maybe it was the way he left in a hurry. Maybe it was instinct. I checked the door behind him. Locked. Just like always. But I had watched him open it before. I knew where he kept the key. Taped to the back of the coat closet shelf. I don't know what came over me. Curiosity? Rebellion? Maybe just years of secrets piling up. But I grabbed the key. I opened the basement door. And I went down. That was the moment everything I thought I knew about my dad, about our lives, about our bad luck, began to unravel. The first thing that hit me was the smell. Damp earth, metal, and something else I couldn't place. The steps creaked under my feet, and with each one, I felt my chest tighten. I expected dusty boxes and cobwebs. Maybe tools, old furniture, maybe junk. What I saw instead didn't make sense. The room was divided. One half was cluttered, shelves of chemicals, buckets, hoses, tarps. The other half was clean, lit by a low yellow lamp. There was a cot, a chair, a small table, a chain bolted to the wall, and someone was sitting there. A woman. She looked up at me with wide, hollow eyes. Thin, pale, her hair tangled, her mouth open like she was trying to speak, but nothing came out. My heart slammed against my ribs. I nearly fell backward. That's when I heard the front door open upstairs. I panicked. I didn't know whether to run back up or stay quiet and hope he didn't realize what I'd done. But I couldn't take my eyes off her. The woman. She looked like she hadn't seen daylight in months. She raised her hand slowly and pointed at me. No, not at me. Past me. Toward the stairs. I spun around just in time to hear heavy boots stomping down fast. My dad's voice cut through the air like a blade. "What the heck are you doing?" I froze. He was halfway down the steps, his face flushed with anger. No, not just anger. Fear. I'd never seen him look like that before. Not even close. "You weren't supposed to see this," he said. I didn't respond. Couldn't. My mouth was dry, and my legs felt like concrete. The woman whispered something again. I still couldn't make it out, but it sounded like my name. My dad looked between us, then marched across the basement and grabbed me by the collar. "Upstairs. Now." I tried to pull away. "Who is she? What is this?" He didn't answer. He just dragged me up the stairs like I was 5 years old again and slammed the basement door shut behind us. Locked it. Then he stood there, breathing hard, his back against the door. "She's sick," he finally said. "She's not right in the head. You weren't supposed to see her." My voice cracked. "Who is she, Dad?" He didn't answer right away. He just stared at the wall like he was someplace else. Then he mumbled, She's your aunt. That stopped me cold. My aunt? Mom's sister? He nodded slowly. But, Mom doesn't have a sister. She never talked about. She doesn't anymore, he snapped. She's gone. I felt dizzy. None of this made sense. My mom had left when I was 6. That much I knew. And I had never met any family on her side. I thought maybe they'd cut us off after the divorce, or that they were just gone. My dad rubbed his face and sat down heavily in the kitchen chair. Your aunt, Rachel, she had problems. Big ones. Drugs, bad choices, jail. When your mom left, she showed up out of nowhere. Said she needed help, just for a little while. Your mom said no. I said yes. I shook my head. That doesn't explain why she's chained to the wall in our basement. He looked up at me with this mix of shame and stubbornness that I'll never forget. She got violent. Not just with me. She came after you once. You don't remember, but it happened. I didn't want to call the cops again. I figured I could help her myself. Get her clean. Keep her safe. Keep you safe. My stomach turned. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But nothing about this felt like safety. That woman wasn't high. She was starving. She was fading. I don't know how long I stood there. I think part of me wanted to scream. The other part wanted to cry. Does anyone else know about this? I asked. He shook his head. No one. I stared at him. I thought about how many years this had gone on. How many nights he'd disappeared. How many times I heard her down there, alone. You said Mom left because she couldn't handle being poor, I said slowly. She did. Or did she leave because of what you did to her sister? His eyes narrowed, but he didn't answer. That told me enough. I went to bed that night in a daze. I didn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice in my head. Kept thinking about her face. The way she looked at me like I was her last hope. The next morning, I skipped school. I waited for my dad to leave. And when he did, I went back down. She was awake. Sitting up. She looked a little stronger, like just having someone see her had brought her back to life a little. Help me, she whispered. This time I heard it clearly. I'm going to, I said. But I need to know the truth first. She stared at me with these sunken, haunted eyes. He said he was going to kill me if I didn't stay quiet. I felt my blood turn cold. She reached behind the cot and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was crumpled and damp, but I could still read the words. My mom's handwriting. I tried to take her with me, the letter said. I begged him. He said no. Said he'd handle her. I couldn't fight him. I was scared. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I dropped to the floor, knees buckling. My mom hadn't just walked out. She tried to save her sister, and failed. That's when I knew. This wasn't just a family problem. It was something darker. And I couldn't keep it a secret anymore. I spent the whole day trying to figure out what to do. My hands were shaking the entire time. I kept reading the letter over and over, like maybe I had misunderstood it. Like maybe it didn't say exactly what I thought it did. But it did. My mom knew. She'd left Rachel behind. Maybe she had no choice. Maybe she thought she'd come back. But either way, my aunt had been locked up down there for nearly 10 years. 10. I couldn't even imagine it. I couldn't go to the police. Not yet. What would I say? My dad has had my aunt chained in our basement for a decade. They'd need more than just a note and a scared 16-year-old saying it. And if I told the wrong person, and word got back to my dad. No. I needed a plan. I snuck food down to her the next few nights. Water. Vitamins from the old bathroom cabinet. She got stronger. Started talking more. Her voice was raspy and slow at first, but each day it got a little clearer. She told me stories, ones I didn't want to believe at first, about how my dad wasn't just helping a buddy for extra money. He was involved in something else, something that started with stolen cars and ended in threats, extortion, and worse. He's dangerous, she said. Not just to me, to anyone who crosses him. I started digging. Carefully. Quietly. I checked his phone while he was asleep. He had a lock, but he was old school, still used a 4-digit passcode. It was my birthday. Once I was in, I found dozens of messages. Names I didn't know. Short, coded phrases like drop made and cargo moved. And photos. Boxes filled with stuff I couldn't quite identify. Money? Electronics? Something else? I copied everything I could to a flash drive and hid it under the loose floorboard in my room. That same week, I started keeping a journal. Every conversation, every movement. A full record in case something happened to me. I needed help, but I didn't know who to trust. Until I remembered Ms. Langley. She was my guidance counselor back in 9th grade. A good person. The kind who remembered your name even after you graduated. I hadn't spoken to her in years, but she always told me if I ever needed anything, she was there. So I walked into her office one Friday after school, shaking like a leaf, and told her everything. Well, almost everything. I left out the worst parts. I said my dad was hurting someone in our house, and that I was scared for both of us. I didn't want to overwhelm her or scare her off. I just needed someone to help start the ball rolling. She believed me. At first, she offered to call Child Protective Services, but I begged her not to. Not yet. Just give me one day, I said. Please. I need to get everything together. She agreed, but only if I promised to come back Monday with more. That weekend was the longest of my life. I packed a go bag. I helped Rachel shower upstairs while my dad was gone. She cried the entire time. Said she hadn't felt clean in years. I promised her she wouldn't go back down those stairs ever again. I was wrong. Sunday night, Dad came home early. I don't know if he saw the bag, or if Rachel left a trail, or maybe he just felt it in the air that something was about to change. But I heard the door slam harder than usual. Heard his boots move fast across the floor. Then I heard the basement lock click open. I ran after him, but I was too late. She was screaming. He was dragging her up the stairs by the arm, yelling about betrayal, about how he'd given her a chance, about how we both ruined everything. I threw myself between them. Stop. You can't do this. He shoved me so hard I hit the wall. My head bounced off the drywall and stars danced in my eyes. You were spying on me, he shouted. After everything I've done for you. Rachel grabbed my hand. Run, she whispered. I didn't run. I fought. I picked up the metal lamp off the end table and swung it with everything I had. It hit him right in the side of the head. He stumbled backward, dazed. Rachel didn't wait. She bolted for the front door. I followed. We didn't stop running until we were 3 blocks away. My lungs were burning, my legs felt like rubber, but adrenaline kept me upright. Rachel clung to my arm like she was afraid I'd vanish. Or worse, like he'd catch up and drag us both back. We ducked into the alley behind an old gas station, hidden between 2 dumpsters, and just sat there for a while, shaking, breathing hard. Are you okay? I asked her. She didn't answer right away. She just looked up at the night sky like she hadn't seen it in years. Honestly, she probably hadn't. After a long silence, she nodded. That was the first time I saw her smile. It wasn't big, and it didn't last long, but it was real. I called Ms. Langley from a payphone. She answered on the second ring. 10 minutes later, she picked us up in her car, a dented old Camry that smelled like coffee and lavender hand sanitizer. She didn't ask many questions, just drove us straight to a women's shelter on the edge of town, the kind of place no one talks about, but everyone somehow knows exists. They took Rachel in without hesitation. They took one look at her, the bruises, the scars, the way she flinched when someone got too close, and didn't need more convincing. I spent the night in Ms. Langley's spare room. She gave me a blanket and a bowl of soup and told me I was brave. I didn't feel brave. I felt hollow. The next day, she drove me to school. I didn't want to go, but she insisted. You need to act normal. For now, until we figure out the next steps. So I walked the halls like a ghost. Sat through classes I didn't hear. Ate lunch I couldn't taste. And when the final bell rang, I went straight to her office. There were 2 men waiting. Not cops. Investigators. Ms. Langley had taken everything I told her and handed it over to the state. They asked me 1,000 questions about the basement, the letter, the phone, the chain in the wall. I answered everything, showed them the flash drive, gave them my journal. And then I waited. They promised to handle it. Promised I wouldn't have to go back there. Promised Rachel was safe. I wanted to believe them. But the next day, he was still free. He came to my school. He stood outside the gates like nothing had happened. Smoking. Watching. I told the principal. I told the counselors. But until there was an official arrest, no one could stop him from being there. So I made a decision. I went public. I took the photos I'd saved, the letter, the journal, and everything else, and sent it all to a reporter I found online. A local guy who covered small-town crime and corruption. I didn't use my real name, but I sent him proof that what I was saying was real. He called me that same night. Said it was the most disturbing story he'd heard in years. 2 days later, it was front-page news. Woman found chained in basement. Nephew breaks silence. They pixelated our faces and changed our names, but it didn't matter. Everyone knew. Police finally arrested my dad that night. Raided the house. Found everything exactly as I said. Rachel's cot, the restraints, even the hidden stash of phones and burner cash. Turns out he was part of a criminal ring. Turns out the basement wasn't just for Rachel. It had been used before. That's when the floodgates opened. 3 other women came forward. All said the same thing. They'd met him through odd jobs. He offered them help. And then, one by one, they vanished. No one ever filed a report because they were transient or estranged from family. Easy to forget. Easy to hide. But not anymore. Rachel's testimony helped seal the case. They offered her a deal if she testified. Housing, therapy, full support. She took it. I've never seen anyone so terrified and so strong at the same time. As for me, I didn't go back to that house. Not even to get my stuff. The shelter helped me find a temporary foster placement. Ms. Langley stayed involved. She checked in every day. She even helped me apply to schools out of state. I'm writing this from a shared dorm room 2 hours away from where it all happened. Rachel's getting better. Slowly. She still has nightmares, and she still doesn't like small spaces. But she's free. We both are. Some people ask me why I didn't just walk away sooner. Why I didn't run to the police the moment I knew. Why I waited. Why I hesitated. Why I even tried to believe anything my dad said after what I saw in that basement. But if you've never grown up poor, scared, and constantly on edge, you don't understand how survival can twist your instincts. When the person who feeds you, clothes you, puts a roof over your head also turns out to be a monster, you don't just flip a switch. You have to unlearn everything. The courts moved fast after the story hit the media, not because they wanted to, but because the pressure was on. Reporters camped outside the courthouse. Rachel's face, once hidden, became the symbol of the whole case. Her courage, not mine. My dad tried to deny it all at first. Claimed Rachel made it up. Claimed I had been brainwashed by some counselor with an agenda. But his phone records, the photos, and those other women's statements crushed any defense he had left. He was sentenced to 35 years in prison without parole. That number still doesn't feel real. Part of me thought he'd get out early somehow, show up again, knock on my door. But he won't. Not this time. I visit Rachel once a week. She lives in a group home with other survivors now. She's learning to cook, she's taking classes online, and she's working on a memoir. Some days are harder than others. But she told me something recently that stuck with me. She said, "You didn't just save me, you saw me. And that's what saved me most." That hit me hard. I think back to the basement sometimes. To that first moment when I opened the door, expecting dust and tools, and found a living ghost instead. What would have happened if I hadn't been curious? If I'd ignored the sounds? If I'd never opened that door? I don't like thinking about it. But I do think about what could happen, what will happen, if more people like Rachel are heard. If more kids like me speak up, even when it's terrifying. If more people realize that keeping family secrets isn't loyalty, it's a trap. Sometimes, your blood can betray you worse than any stranger. But sometimes, the family you choose, the people who step in and believe you, they're the ones who actually show you what love is supposed to look like. Ms. Langley still checks in. She sends me care packages at college, little things like ramen, pens, peanut butter, and socks. Always socks. I guess she knows those little comforts mean a lot when you've lived without them. I don't know what the future holds yet. But I know this. I won't ever be quiet again. And I won't ever lock a door to hide the truth. Not ever.